So hello everyone and welcome again to another edition of the Australian Football Services podcast. My name is Anel Kapur and I'm the Operations Manager of Australian Football Services. And I'm joined today as always by my friend and co-director of Australian Football Services, Omer Ocakoglu. Our guest in this edition is Steve Darby. Now, anyone who does follow football, particularly Australian and Asian football, both across the men's and women's game, will be familiar with Steve Darby. He built a career not just as a player, but also as a successful coach, a tech director and a football pundit. We're very lucky to have him on the show today. So Steve, thank you very much for spending some time with us.
Morning and greetings from sunny UK, sunny Liverpool in fact.
It's not so sunny over here, but it's still decent weather, I think. Okay, so Steve, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your history in football?
Well, I'll say I was lucky in as much that I was lucky enough to be born on Anfield Road, literally. I went to Anfield Road School, so I walked past the ground every day, and I actually do remember touching the wall every day. That's how daft I was. And I was brought up in the Shankly era, which was absolutely wonderful in terms of the football and the winning, but just the atmosphere created by Shankly. My dad used to take me to Everton one week, Liverpool the next week when I was about 6 or 7. But when I got a bit older and went on my own, which was about 9 or 10 in those days, you were allowed to go when you were 9 or 10 in those days on your own. And I went to Liverpool, mainly, I'll be honest, because of Shankly, you know. And basically, I stopped going when I started to play more. So in the end, when I was a teenager, I was playing about 60 games a season. I was playing for the school in the morning, the boys' club, which was like a big thing in those days in Liverpool, and on Sunday, playing for a men's Sunday league team, where I was getting some really good money in those days. You know, for a teenager, I was really happy. They used to call it boot money, and you used to get it, and they looked after you well. So playing 60-odd games a season, and in a sense where I was lucky in those days, again, different, there was a thing called 11 plus, and I went to a grammar school in past 11 plus, and that meant that you got a chance in life. Really, you really got pushed academically. You don't realize it when you're doing it. You're at school, you know, and school was a football team. That's all that mattered. But you know, that's where, in hindsight, again, you know, in terms of education, I was lucky enough to get on the right path at the right time.
Nice,
wonderful. And when did you make the transition into football coaching? Was that always your goal, or? Well,
first thing, as a kid, all I wanted to be was a footballer. Nothing else. That's all that mattered. I wanted to be a footballer. And in reality, my career was halted by a severe lack of ability. Not injuries, just ability. And I was playing 60-odd games a season, getting a little bit of money here and there when I was a kid. And I went into Tranmere. And basically, they looked at me one day and said, "We heard you go to school, you can do A-levels, as they were called. Do it. You're not going to make it, son." And I was devastated, absolutely devastated. I mean, but they were right. That's being perfectly honest. Hindsight again, they were right. From my youth team, only one lad ended up playing league football, a fellow called Tommy Tynan. And the only player who made it, in a sense, from my age group, because you tended to remember the players of your age group, was Steve Coppell. You know, and he didn't make it till he was 18. He didn't get picked up till he was 18. So, you know, that's when the career, I say, stopped. And I didn't think of becoming a coach at 16, 17, but I do remember thinking when I was at Tranmere, this is a bit crazy. I was doing cross-country running pre-season, and I was a goalkeeper. You know, and then I was getting advice like, when the ball went past me, you should have saved that. Well, I knew that I should have saved it, but I want to know how to save it. So, and I always remember I played for Merseyside schoolboys. We were playing Cologne schoolboys from Germany. And I do remember Steve Coppell was also playing that day. And I do remember playing and thinking, this is different. They weren't like us. Because when I got the ball as a keeper, I got it and I wellied it right to the far end. That's all it was. Never taught to do that. I just did it because everyone else did it. And these Germans were throwing it out, the goalkeeper, and they were passing it to each other from the back. And I remember it being really like a culture shock. So it wasn't a case of I wanted to be a coach, but I do remember I was thinking, this is different. There are some ways, like at Tranmere, I felt it was wrong, and I was never going to say this is wrong, because when you're 16, you don't dare say you're wrong to Ron Yates, or someone like that, or Johnny King. You just don't do it. And quite rightly, I wouldn't even expect it now to do it. But it wasn't. I ended up going to a phys ed college called Carnegie, because when I knew I wasn't going to make it as a footballer, the next best option was to be a PE teacher in those days, because that meant I could play football all day as a PE teacher. So it was, and get paid. So I went to PE college, and a fellow called Merv Beck, who was a lecturer there, he taught me what coaching was, and that literally opened my eyes to the game. I was thinking, like, I just didn't know these things. Like, there I was 20 maybe, and we were doing heading one day, and I didn't know that you headed the ball there. I always had this impression of heading it there. Hence probably why I had an ear like that, all the time. And I was dead lucky in this, that I did my FA badges quite early. And I had people like Jack Charlton, one of the instructors, Howard Wilkinson, who was fierce and tough, but really good. So I got a good football coach education while I was there, and that really helped. But plus the PE teaching helps you organise, because if you can't organise, you can't coach, because it's chaos. I've seen some good coaches who just have lost control because the lads are all over the place. You've got to have an element of organisation, planning, control, then you can coach. And if you can't coach, that's okay. It doesn't matter anyway. But if you can coach, you've got to give yourself a chance.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. The transition that you made from when you were a player to when you were coaching, especially with your heading experiences and headering the ball from the side of your head. Very, very unique. Steve, you have an impressive list of qualifications and language skills. Do you think this has helped you in coaching?
Well, in terms of the qualifications, it's like having keys to a door, really. That I did my full badge when I was 24. That's like the A license. Yeah. And I was lucky because I had a good. I taught for one term. That's all. I got a job, PE teacher, and I got a phone call from Merv Beck saying, "Do you want to go to Bahrain to be a football coach full time?" Whoosh! I'd have swam there. Never mind. Didn't even know where Bahrain was. But I said, I'm going. I didn't even ask about the salary. I remember that. I said, yes, I'm going. And when I found out the salary as well, I was on about 6 times what I was teaching. So it was paradise. But also I worked with a fellow called Jack Mansell, who was a national coach. So I was in charge of a club called Rifah, East Rifah, or Rafah Sharagi, as they say in Arabic. And when the national team came into play, I'd go in to help him, or the assistant or whatever, put the cones out basically at 24. But I learned so much from him, and he said, right, get yourself onto a full badge. I went back to England, passed the full badge. I've been told I was the 3rd youngest to get it. Graham Taylor was the youngest apparently, but I don't know that's true. I've just been told I was that. I just realised that it helped me a lot. It taught me how to coach. In terms of the language, I did French and Latin at school, and I hated it. I thought, oh, why am I ever going to use French? Latin, how many Roman soldiers you get to meet? I can read the bottom of statues. That's about all. But when I was in Bahrain, I suddenly went from being a teacher working 8-9 hours a day to being a footballer again, and I was working 2 hours a day, and there was no TV over there then, other than the bloke from Saudi reading the Quran. Now, I've got to be honest, I've read the Quran. I'm not interested in Arabic, watching that. So I decided to teach myself Arabic. So I taught myself Arabic. I'm illiterate, because you try writing it. It's especially not only writing it, you don't write that way, you write that way, which is even harder. Yeah. So I taught myself Arabic, which helped, because I suddenly found that when I was dealing with my players, you got closer. You got warmer. It became a mixture of being polite, friendliness. The dressing room was better. Near the end, I could start to crack jokes in Arabic, which isn't part of the procedure. And I've tried to follow that through in all the countries I go to. I try and learn. You never be fluent. You're not there long enough, especially not being a football coach. You're never there long enough, to become fluent. But I found that if you say hello, please, thank you, how are you, and get to know some of the basic words, that's good. And when you find the language easy, like Malaysian is quite easy, you learn to start to use when to bend a run or arrive late. If you say that in Bahasa Malayo or Vietnamese or Thai, it helps, because when there's a young lad you're working with, maybe if he's international, if he's 19 or 20, he's under physical stress when he's playing. He hasn't got time to compute English into his language to translate. It's gone. But if you can get it into his head, in his language, you've got a chance. And even just praise, bagus in Malaysia, zotot in Vietnamese, very good. It makes them feel good. And if you're a footballer, you want to feel good. 99% of footballers live on praise. You'll get the odd one who likes a bollocking, but the very odd, I'll be honest. I mean, it's a bit of a myth, this, about, hammer them, they'll show you. Most of them don't. Most of them fold. But if you tell a player he's good and you believe in him and you trust him, they will usually do their best for you. And that's really all you can do, is their best. If it's not good enough, there's nothing you can do about it. My best was not good enough. If it went on hard work, attitude, I'd be in goal for Madrid now, or Barcelona, or Liverpool. But it doesn't. It goes on ability as well as those other features. But you make your player feel good, and I think language really helps. Plus, it also stops them talking about you. If they think you're fluent, they're not going to be calling you all the words under the sun especially because the first words you learn usually are the bad ones.
Absolutely.
Like when I first came to Australia in 1980, the biggest shock I got was I turned the radio on because it was big, and John Laws was on, and suddenly he said the word bastard, and I nearly died, because you couldn't say bastard in England. That was like a really offensive phrase in 1980, and there's the bloke on the radio saying it, and I'm going, what have I come to? What type of country, So you learn that certain words mean certain things in different countries, It's and I got quite a shock with that one. And I heard John Laws is still going, apparently. He must be about 120.
And the rest.
So, Steve, are you coaching at the moment? And if so, what team are you coaching?
Right. Well, basically, my last job was the national coach of Laos for the 2018 World Cup qualifiers, which, as you can gather, we weren't going to qualify for the World Cup. I'd have certainly put money on that. Yeah. But and realistically, my mum is 90. It's the COVID. She's struggling a wee bit. There's a time when you've got to put other things in perspective, and I thought it's time to come home for a while to basically look after her, and I'm financially comfortable from football. I'm not mega rich. I wasn't a match fixer. That's how you make your big money in Asia. So I can tell you more about that later as well. But so I decided, and plus my daughter is 15, which is the GCE age in England. So it was important that she went to a good school to give her a chance to go to uni and stuff like that. So I'm realistically not coaching anybody, because I must have missed a phone call when Liverpool and Everton rang me. So Ancelotti got the job instead of me. So I've been doing some online work for the LMA, with the League Managers Association, and I've been doing some I like to write. I've been doing some writing for a coaching app. I've no idea what an app is. I'm hopeless at things like that, but I just write the football. And some other smarter lad, probably about 15 years of age, puts it on an app, and it goes out to people.
Nice. Well,
but I miss the dressing room. You do miss it. I don't miss the journalists. I don't miss the administrators, because I've had non-stop battles all my life with administrators. And some journals are great, like yourselves, but others are absolute snakes in the grass, I've found. So I don't miss them, but I miss the dressing room. And I miss the fans. You get, good people who love football.
Yeah. Well, Steve, you mentioned that you're not coaching at the moment, but what would be, if you were to describe your coaching style, what kind of style would it be?
Well, the first thing is, I'm happy you haven't used that awful word philosophy. It's one of my pet hates, that. I mean, to me, the only football philosophy I've ever heard of was number 8 for Brazil, Socrates.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, let's be honest, I can't stand that word. And I hear people saying, oh, my philosophy is we're going to play this way. And the project is attractive to me. You know, the reality is in football, it's particularly in Asia, especially in professional football, I class as two different types of football. Youth development, which I haven't hardly done, to be honest, and professional football, which has basically been 95% of my time. And in professional football, there is only one way to be, that is to win games. Because if you don't win games, you're not coaching, because you're going to get sacked. You know, that's welcome to the real world of professional football in Asia. I mean, people say to me, oh, what's your long-term goal? Well, it's to keep the job. That's the first thing. Long-term is next week. Development is to win by a bigger score than last week. So you can't be too much of this philosopher to see. And if you had to describe it, I would say I was a player's coach, mainly because players win your matches. Players also can lose your matches. So you've got to feel comfortable with your players. I always look at what I've got and then decide the system. You know, I don't say, right, we're going to play 4-3-3. You know, I mean, I also don't like numbers as well, because I see a lot of this new curriculum in Australia. We're playing 1-4-3-3. I mean, it's hilarious when they put the 1 in. They go for the start, the goal.
Yeah.
What a time that is. Everyone knows the keeper. You know, 4-3-3 bit. I mean, I've said to lads, well, okay, if you're too wide in the front three, drop back 10 yards. What is it? And they look at you. I go, it becomes 4-5-1, isn't it? I say, if you look at Liverpool who play a 4-3-3, what happens if Firmino drops back from the middle bit? It becomes a 4-3-2-1-1-2. And they're looking at me like I'm from the moon. I said, the numbers don't mean that much. They're just a rough shape.
Yeah.
And within it, you get things like the principles of play that apply and other coaching and technique. I mean, some of the best coaching books I've read, which was produced in the 60s and 70s, they all start with the same thing. It doesn't matter what system you play or what you do. If you can't pass it or control it, nothing else matters. And that's true. You know, if your second touch is a tackle, you know you're going to struggle in your career.
Yeah.
The great players have a great first touch. They can pass it beautifully. They've got soft feet. I mean, the soft feet to me sounds a crazy phrase, but Viduka had soft feet. You know, for a lad who was built like a monster, he had the gentlest feet I've seen. You know, he could pass a ball beautifully. You know, things like that. You know, and I try and think of it in terms of Australian terms. You know, but obviously the audience. But I'd say I was a player's coach. There are certainly people who are, I'll say, president's coaches. They're ones who say yes to the president. Yes, I think your nephew is a great player. Your nephew can be the captain if he wants, you know, and things like that. But they don't tend to last long anyway. The players get rid of them, because players can get rid of you. There's no doubt about that. I think they do. It's only happened to me once. That happened to me in a certain club, because two of the key players were match fixing. And I was stridently, obviously, against match fixing. But I found out they were not only fixing, they had the management involved in the fixing, getting a percentage. So, and I said to the management, it's me or them. And them stayed. I went. You know, so that was the real world. But I try, whenever I'm in a country, I try and get a local assistant, because there is such a thing as local knowledge. And it gets you over, if nothing else, the first 6 months of, you know, who's the best players. Helps you with the culture as well. Who to offend, who not to offend. You know, because there are certain people, when you go, you've got to be culturally savvy, because there are certain people you can't offend, because you won't be there next week if you do. The best example I got was, I was 1998. I'd just gone to Johor in Malaysia, and I was training on the Sultan's playing fields, they were called. So the Sultan's playing fields were, you know, beautiful. Next minute, there's a bloke coming across on a horse, knocking a polo stick, and I'm just about to shout, "Get the flipping horse," or something like that, off. And my captain, a local lad, jumped on me and held me down in the mud. And I'm going, "What are you doing?" He said, "Coach, I knew what you were going to say." He said, that's the Sultan's son. You know, I said, well, he said, no, God, you just don't say that here. You'll be gone. He said, A, you'd be lucky if you get alive. He said, but B, you'll be gone tomorrow. End of story. He said, we'll have some idiot coaching us. We like you, keep you, so shut up. And he was dead right. The bloke's now the Sultan. So, it is amazing. You learn cultural things. There's certain people you don't upset. That's, maybe it's the same in Australia. I don't know, but I tended to upset everybody in Australia, including ASF presidents. It was called the ASF in my days, not the FF. But so the other thing about having an assistant to a local is, it sounds funny, but they're often spies. And I mean that in the nicest way, that they're employed by the president, and he's there to look on you. I had one lad who was a smashing lad, and a good coach. He said, Coach, I've got a spy on you. I'm sorry. And I said, well, that's all right. He said, but don't worry, I'll say nice things about you. And I'm going, what do you mean? He said, well, I've got a report on you because the boss says that. And I understood, because it's very simple. That bloke's there forever. Yeah. And he's not going to leave. I'm going to leave no matter what. I've had about 4 or 5 jobs in Asia, which lasted 3 years, which is quite a lot for a foreigner, in Asia. But the local boy's going to be there forever. And they say in Asia, don't break your own rice bowl. So that's basically, that's where your money comes from, local. You got to do the right thing. So I understood that. And the best spy I ever had, though, was in Vietnam. I was coaching one of the national teams there, and I used to see a bloke every day on the other side of the pitch behind a tree, and he was writing stuff. And I said to one of my assistants, I said, who's the bloke over there? And he said, oh, it's the spy. He's in the Ministry of whatever, and he's spying on you, because this was year 2000. So in those days, it was still a relatively communist regime. So I pulled the boy over. Oh, he was petrified. And I said, show me what you're writing. And he showed me his notes. They were absolutely magnificent notes. So I said, look, can I have a copy? I said, because they're better than my notes. I said, you're telling me exactly what I'm doing. And he said, I'm really sorry. I said, no, don't be sorry. Sit down in the shade, get comfortable, write the notes, and give me a copy as well if you want. Because he had no choice. He had to be the spy. That was his job. And the team had a spy. The left back was the team spy. And they all knew, all the players knew who the team spy was. And her job was to report anything going wrong. And she did, but she made sure, because she was a decent player, it was a girl in this case, she just said the right things all the time. So everyone was happy. But she had to go through the notion of being the team spy. So you learn that football is fascinating in those areas. It's the things that go on behind the scenes you would never have picked.
Wow, I'm gobsmacked. Wow.
But entertaining. I mean, the Vietnamese one was, I went there to coach the men's Olympic team. Got the contract, started off coaching the men's Olympic team, and I ended up getting a chance. The translator itself was funny. No one spoke English in those days. So I had about 4 translators, and they were useless. They were usually all girls, but they were useless. I had one that kept saying, yes, yes. And I said, you look like an elephant, don't you? And she went, yes. I said, all right. I had one who took notes. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm taking notes. And I said, why? She said, I'll come back tomorrow and tell the players. I said, no, you got to tell them now. No, she's gone. Then I walked into the office one day, and this creature in a miniskirt and high heels stood up and said, g'day, mate. I looked at her. I said, what did you say? She said, g'day. I said, where'd you learn that? She said, I taught myself Australian when I lived there. And she was fluent. Now, she was fluent. She couldn't read or write English, but she was fluent verbally. And she was a great translator. I mean, you had the odd crazy bit. Like one day I said to her, tell the players to knock it to the far post. Okay. Next minute, the balls are going bing, bing. All the players are aiming for the corner flag. I said, what are you doing? What do you tell them? You said, hit it to the furthest stick. I said, I didn't. I said, the far post. That's the furthest stick. That's the far post over there. So I had to translate that. She wasn't very good at football, but she was politically savvy, And then another one, I said to him one day, you have to beep this bit out. I said, tell them to fucking welly it. And next minute, I see her looking on a little electronic thing, which she didn't usually use. And I said, what are you doing? She says, I know what fucking is. In fact, I quite like it. She says, but I don't know what this welly is. And because and you learn then, you can't use slang. You know, you have to try and change your language to use English. You don't use English slang. The translator won't be used. But she was smart enough. Like I said, I went to coach the men's team. A big black car came up. A couple of lads in white shirts and black ties got out and sunglasses. And she just said to me, "You're going with them. I'm coming with you." I went there, went to the Ministry of Sport, met the Minister of Sport, lovely bloke. And he said, "You're going to coach the women's team because we want to sack the men's national coach. And we'll do that by giving him the Olympic team. They'll fail in the qualifiers. And then we can sack him. We want to win a gold medal in the Southeast Asian Games, and we think you can do it with this women's team." I said, "Oh, no." As soon as I said no, she's kicked me under the table. She's whispered to me, said in English, because she couldn't speak English. You know, she said to me, "It's not an offer. You have no choice. You're doing it." So I said, "Oh, okay then." He said, "Your salary's the same. Your winning bonus is the same." And when I thought that, I said, "That's not bad," because I knew that we had no chance of winning with the men. But the women had a good chance of winning. So, and to be fair, when we got off the plane after winning the Southeast Asian gold medal, there he was with a brown envelope, which was full of US dollars. "Thank you." And I thought he kept his word. You know, it was great. So I ended up coaching the women there. And I've got to be honest, they were wonderful. They were tough. They were professional. They were loyal, you know, and it was a pleasure to actually work with them. You know, again, I could tell you lots of stories about them as well. They're great girls. Still in contact with a lot of them, and a lot of them are still involved in the game, which is good because the Vietnamese look after their players. They have them as coaches now, administrators. Not all, because not everyone's going to go on stay in the game, but certainly a block of these girls are still there and are doing a great job.
So Steve, just touching base on your experience across the region. I mean, you've been involved in football virtually all across the globe. In terms of your experiences and what you've seen in terms of players and youth development and attitudes towards football, have you seen there to be a difference between the football in Europe, Asia, and then also in Oceania?
Well, I'm limited in my European knowledge, I'll be honest. My only knowledge of youth development was at Sheffield Wednesday. Great club. I was the right person at the wrong time. You know, great club, but you almost couldn't coach there because the lads wanted to do was play football. Didn't want to learn. They just want to play football, have 11 aside every day because they loved it. You know, and you suddenly realise, and of course the weather doesn't help in Sheffield. It was, yeah. I learned there, one of the tricks of the trade I learned as I got older. You wear a football sock, then you put a plastic bag over your socks, then you put another pair of socks on, and that way your feet don't freeze to death. You learn a wonderful thing. Don't learn that on a coaching course. Yeah. So my knowledge is limited of Europe. Asia, there's massive differences within Asia. You've got the Japanese and the Koreans who do things properly. There's no doubt about it. Japan is light years ahead of anywhere else. You've got the other side. You've got the Saudis, you know, the Kuwaitis, the Emirates, Qatar, who do the right thing because of the money. They're financially. If you ever get a chance to go to Qatar, to the Aspire system, out of this world of facilities, you know, they're doing everything right. Facilities. Then you get places in like Southeast Asia, with the Laos, the Cambodias, the Vietnamese, Thailand, where the money's not there. But the passion's there, and the size of the size is there, and their problems they face are riddled with corruption and things like this. That's, you know, a different story. Japan is almost corruption free. Southeast Asia was, you know, terrible for that, but passion was there for the game, and they want to learn. The kids there want to learn. Every young player I've worked with there wants to be a better player. They want to be a star. They want to go and play in the Premier League. Let's be honest. And in terms of the, you know, if you look at it, they're now getting organised. The Vietnamese, the Thais, the Malaysians are starting to put good structures in place. They're taking the money from the AFC, from FIFA, and they're spending it properly. They're getting good coaches. Brad Maloney, the ex-NSL players, coaching Malaysian youth teams. There's a lot of good Aussie coaches are working over there. So they're getting good coaching. They're getting a good structure system. So when I hear people say, "Oh, Australia should not be beaten by Vietnam and Thailand," Firstly, it's so colonial, it's hilarious. You know, why the hell shouldn't Australia be beaten by them? And certainly Australia's nowhere near Japan, let's be quite honest. So what they've got to be realistic and say is these countries have caught up. Australia hasn't gone backwards massively, I think. I think it has decreased in certain areas, but I don't think it's gone badly as people say. The others have got better. And that's where the problems are starting for the Aussies with the colonial mentality. We should be beating little Vietnam, little Thailand. I mean, there's 85 million people in Vietnam, and option B there isn't an option B. You have poverty, you have massive working classes, you're having what people want to be footballers to make a career. Wait till Indonesia gets organised, and that might never happen. But there's 250 million Indonesians. You know, what a pool, talent pool that must be. But there's just chaos, corruption and chaos as well. So that could be another 30 years. But if they do get organised, they're going to be a major force in football. Add to that India, different again. I mean, not so much the passion there. The passion is cricket, let's be honest. You know, cricket is wonderful. And I love cricket as well. So I have no problems with people loving cricket. What they lack is facilities. You know, I was coaching over there in Mumbai in the ISL, the Indian Super League, and we didn't have a training pitch because there wasn't one. Not a case of like we couldn't afford one. There wasn't one in the city of Mumbai. And all the fields were underwater. There was just some great cricket pitches, which we of course weren't allowed on, you know. But in terms of football, there was nothing else. So everywhere in Asia is different, and you've got different problems. You've got different cultural problems. You don't have a good Malaysian women's team because it's an Islamic country, and it's still frowned upon for the girls to play football. The Vietnamese and the Thais, the opposite. The girls are treated equally, you know, and that's why they've got good football teams in the female side. So that would be Asia. Oceania, well, obviously I'll say Australia. My experience there is, I think Australia had the greatest football goldmine factory ever in the AIS. Ran by Jimmy Sholder first, then Ronnie Smith, who did it way ahead of his time. Gary Cole, Steve O'Connor, Tom Samani, Ray Junner. They were doing some incredible things way ahead of their time. And it's okay saying this, I have an opinion, and people say, oh, okay, that's your opinion, that's fine. But my opinion is backed up with words like Viduka, Emerton, Spink, you know, non-stop names you could think of who could play. Moore, you know, all these lads who were top-class players. And not only that, was given a chance, because I was originally from Tasmania, and the AIS gave lads like Dominic Longo, Luciano Fabrizio, who would have stayed in Tasmania if they hadn't been to the AIS. But they got a chance at the AIS that then took them to the national level. They played national youth teams, and then they signed NSL. It opened up the door for Canberra lads, for Queensland lads. Look at, you know, Bimby, Stephen Corica. He came from the jungle. You know, Bimby was from Innisfail, I think it was. I remember going to meet his parents one time, you know, way up in the jungle. AIS spotted, and Frankie Farina, spotted the AIS, got them, gave them the chance, took the chance as well. Not everyone's going to make it, that's just real world, but a very big percentage of AIS lads made it to the NSL, which is really what you have. And then another percentage made it onto, you know, football, you know, top class football. Great example, Andy Bernal. You know, he went and played in the Spanish First Division, Andy Bernal. You know, Canberra lad, played for Belconnen in Canberra. And then he got picked up, went on to Sydney Olympic, then to Spain, international. You know, what a great career he had. Again, given the key. So that was fantastic. And I'll be honest, I'll try to be honest. It's great living in England and not in Australia, because I know I'll never get another job in Australia because I don't want one. So I can be truthful. You know, I think the biggest mistake they made was bringing the Dutch in. Not only because they had this terrible, arrogant attitude of we are the Dutch, we are right. Now, they haven't won that much, really, to be honest. You know, if you're going to go from that attitude, you've got to bring in Argentinians, because they do win things, the Argentinians, and the Germans win things. So if you're going to have that attitude, I'll let the Germans say that, and I'll let the Argies say it, and I'll let the Japanese say it in Asia, because they do put the money where their mouth is. But realistically, they came in and they ruined the system. They changed the age ranges. They stopped doing weight training at the institute. They stopped doing all sorts. They got this robotic system where everybody had to coach the same way, which is madness, because you don't coach the same way. We all coach differently. You know, I mean, you teach people to coach, you help them, you get them to be able to organize, you get them to be able to plan. But within that planning and organization, the individual person comes out. A South American thinks differently to me. He's not right, I'm not right. You know, no one's right or wrong. You know, you have different ways of culturally thinking about football. And you've got to be, and Australia had a great chance, you know, of doing that. There were some wonderful coaches from all over the world in Australia, not just English, not just Aussies, but you had South Americans, Yugoslavs, Croats, you know. I learned as well in Australia not to say Yugoslav, I had to say Crows and Serbs, you know, because I played for a Crow team as well, so I know that. So you get different ways of thinking about football, and that's great. That's where it was a melting pot, I thought, and it was wonderful. The only thing I didn't enjoy, besides being sacked in Australia, was the politics. It was world-class politics in terms of football. Oh, you know, and I always remember I was talking to Gary Punch, who was on the Olympic board at the time, and he was working for the New South Wales Labour Party, you know, and he said, Steve, football politics is dirtier than the New South Wales Labour Party. He said, and that's filthy, believe me. And so, you know, he was saying, but I've got to be honest, when I was in the ASL, I worked in the ASF 90 to 95 as the national FFA, I think they called it. You had people on the board who were, I'll use the word, who were wogs, but there were wogs who loved football. You had John Constantine, Tony Labazetta. They might have disagreed. They might have been political animals, but everything they was doing was for football. They genuinely seemed to sincerely love the game and put their hours in, put their money in, put their time in for the game of football. It changed a bit. Like the bloke who sacked me, David Hill, he brought in and sacked me. To be fair to him, no, he paid me out, you know, which I don't mind that. So it was, and I mean, getting sacked in Australia is quite common. I was sacked from Olympic, which puts me in a majority, not a minority. You know, and you get things there like going to Sydney Olympic was like the best preparation for Asia ever. Because you had the chaos of Olympic within a structure, but I still love the club, and everyone who's worked for Olympic loves it. You know, I was there with David Ratcliffe, who was a great coach, David Ratcliffe, and one of the board came into me Monday. I was like the manager, come assistant coach. Davey was the head coach. Bloke comes into me and says, "We're going to sack Dave Ratcliffe. We want you to take over." I said, "Well, you can't do that. I won't do that." I said, "You just don't do that in our culture." And so they sacked me instead. You know, so that's what you learn things like that. There were so many Olympic stories, but a great club. You have to sort of love it, and as you say, you get the passion from the ethnicity of Australia. When I was sacked from the ASF, the first phone call I got was from a fellow called Harry Michaels, the TV man. I imagine you've obviously ever heard of Harry, and he just said to me, "Right, Steve, you've been on TV with me. You've just been sacked." He probably knew before I was going to be sacked. He said, "Come on, you're coming to work for TV." So Harry rescued me. Fantastic job. First thing he does was, "Right, you're going to interview David Hill." Must be my first job was to interview the bloke who sacked me. I said, "Oh, love it, Harry." And I even found out later that the ASF rang up Harry Michaels and said, "Don't employ him. He's too dangerous." And so Harry put it on speaker and let me hear that. I heard the people who were saying it about me. And he just said, "Hey, I'm the boss of my television company. I employ who I want." And he did. He was great. Top man, Harry Michaels. You know, and there's your passion of your ethnicity. I don't care which, if Italian, Croatian, Serb, Greek, the passion's there. You know.
Nice. Steve, so you were involved with the AIS, as you mentioned. What's your thoughts on these sort of institutions for youth development?
Well, I only spent a couple of weeks as like acting there when Ron Smith went to Sabah to do some work, because he wanted someone who who he could trust. That if he came back from Sabah, I wasn't going to stab him in the back, which I wouldn't because he's a mate, and you don't do that. So, but I worked at the Australian Sports Commission, where the AIS is actually based. So I was in that sense, but also I'd worked as a state director of coaching for Tasmania and for ACT. And the concept which they had, which basically Ron Smith organised, was you would have the top of the youth pyramid with the AIS, but the years below, you had each state having the elite youth players in that state, and the best from that state, like the VIS, New South Wales Institute of Sport, they then went to the AIS. So it was a pyramid of talent. Once again, the real world, not everyone makes it. The talent, it is a pyramid. You know, only a few do make it, but it was working. And you had really good coaches at the VIS, like Ernie Merrick was there, Ian Greener, Harry Bingham, people like that were working. New South Wales, Steve O'Connor. You had lots of good coaches working at the next layer down, who then took their players up to the IS, and that's the finish. That was like university, football university. So the structure was fantastic, and I think it's been absolutely decimated now. As one of the biggest errors they'll ever make is not having the IS. They're regretting it now, and they've got to start doing something, because you can't do it overnight. Unless you do something now, it'll be 2030 before you start to benefit.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So Steve, just touching base again with football in Asia. Over the years, of course, as you mentioned, the game's developed and become a lot more organized, both for coaches and for players. Why do you think Asia is becoming a more attractive option and a destination for players and coaches?
One very simple reason:
money.
I get paid a lot more. I just got sacked from Sydney Olympic, and I got a call from Ron Smith, who was coaching over by then in Malaysia, and he said to me again, "Do you want to come to Johor, coach here?" I said yes, because I was doing television work. I said yes, of course I do. He said it's basically an 8-week contract, and really, I'll be honest, the 8 weeks I was probably getting more than 9 months at the Sydney Olympic. Wow. So I said, I'll be there. And he said, all you got to do is keep the team up, because they were near bottom of relegation. Again, there's luck in football. Don't let anyone kid you. There's no luck in football. There is luck. We went across there. We won 8 games in a row. We kept us up. So my contract was safe. But not only that, we won the FA Cup, which was unheard of because it was a second division team. We went on a run and won the FA Cup. So I got myself another 2-year contract out of it. He had a lot more money as well. So it was, and again, look again. I walked in the dressing room and there's 2 blokes right across there in front of me, 2 big Aussies. And I thought, one was Darren Stewart, sadly passed away, and Milan Blagojevic, 2, both Socceroos. And they said, "Oh, Dad, great, good to see you." He said, "These lads can play. Again, we're just not organised, and they're not motivated." And so what was happening was, the local coach, he was a lovely lad, but he was getting told by the president, run them. If you're not winning, keep running. And the lads were knackered. They were getting injured. So I came in, reduced the training, took the training to the morning, give them the afternoons off. They were trained twice a day, 6 days a week. Madness. No wonder they were injured. We had no physio. So I got a physio in for the first time ever. And suddenly, the lads were coming to training, bouncing, and they were fresh. And they were good players. And then that's why we won the FA Cup. Milan Blagojevic scored the winner from about 30-yard screamer. And there were some good players over there. The opposition captain that day was David Rocastle, who played for England. And so you had some good footballers in the Malaysian league at that side. Again, coming for one reason only: they came for the money. And the reality is in Asian football is, if you win, they look after you, and they look after you well. If you lose, payment is flexible sometimes. And I've had a couple of battles which I happen to have won, but I'm lucky enough that, again, I talked about education earlier. Because I'm reasonably educated, I knew how to work a fax machine, which some of these lads don't. I know how to speak English, so I can write a letter stating my case. I knew how to employ lawyers, so I ended up getting my money. But a lot of local lads can't do that in terms of these Southeast Asian nations. That's why the game is desperately in need of PFAs. You need professional footballers associations in Asia. You've got to have them to defend the rights of lads who are obviously sometimes treated like slaves. It really is, because the society is hierarchical. The boss dictates your life. And I had one lad in Thailand, international player. I was coaching the national team, and I said he wasn't happy at his club. And I said, well, why don't you leave when you end your contract? He said, I haven't got a contract, coach. I said, what do you mean? He says, I haven't got a contract. He said, I just get paid. I said, well, he said, if we win, he said, when we win, I get paid a fortune. When we lose, he doesn't pay us, the boss. And he only let me go when he wants me to go. He said, I can't leave. He said, he threatens my family.
Wow.
And we're talking about really threatening your family there, you know.
Wow.
So that's, again, another cultural issue. But if you ask me the original question, why they're going across there, you're going to, obviously, financial reasons. It's a professional game. You have to look after yourself. But also, the facilities now are becoming top class. If you go to Johor now, it's called JDT, where the director of football is another Aussie, Alistair Edwards. You know, so you're getting the Aussie influence everywhere. Scotty Ollenshaw is over in Sabah, doing a good job in Sabah. So you're getting Aussies over there. The facilities at JDT are Premier League standard, both stadium and training facilities. Now, it wasn't that good of facilities when I was there originally in the late 90s, but they've realised, they've gone to Japan, they've gone to the Premier League, they've gone to Germany, looked, right, we need this, we need this, we need this. They took money from AFC, they've taken money from FIFA, some of the grants, and they've used them well. I mean, let's be honest, there's corruption, we know that in football. There's corruption in FIFA, we know that. Best example of non-corruption I've seen was, I was invited to go to Manipur in India. Now, Manipur is in the top right-hand corner near the border of Nepal. It's in the mountains. I was flown in there, then I was flown in again. And the second plane I went in was like a little baby model. You know, what am I going on here? Got in there, no problem. Driven through all these slums. Poverty was immense. Terrible roads with potholes, animals on the road. I thought, oh, what have I come for? I've got 2 months of this, dreading it. Suddenly we went through this swamp, and then suddenly I saw this big patch of green, and it was a top of the range FIFA paid for pitch, artificial, because otherwise you couldn't survive because of the rain, you know. And it was superbly and the people who were running the football in Manipur were honest. I said, any chance of a portable goal? Next day, 2 portable goals came, because everything they did was for the footballers. And the Manipur and all those places like Sikkim, in those areas up there, Assam, they are the northeast of India. They're the football factory. So many footballers come from the northeast. Not many cricketers come from there. I think mainly because of the weather, the mountains, you know, but it's a football heartland. And they took the FIFA money, they got it, and they used it properly. And they looked after their people, they looked after their players. And my job in Manipur was to help 30 youth players become professionals, and basically teach them how to be pros. So we looked at their diet, their lifestyle. Now, initially, I thought, oh, that diet's terrible. But then I realized what they were going to eat if they went home. Their diet wasn't terrible. What these people were giving them was top class in their environment. They were living in basically a dormitory, but the dormitory had AC, had a television, was spotlessly clean. And the book in charge said, look, this is really good. They like this. You know, it's good. So you had to put it in cultural perspective. They were doing everything right. And nice. I'm pleased enough that quite a few of these lads went on to become pros in the ISL, and a couple have played for India, which is, you know, the ultimate career then. That means, and what these lads do, we're going to be honest again, a lot of these lads from the poorer nations, when they make it, they end up feeding not only the family, they feed the extended family. In some cases, they feed the village. I've had African players, and some of them African players were feeding almost like a whole village of 200 people. And I didn't know this, But other African players were telling me this is why this bloke's broke at the end of every month, because he sent 95% of his wage back to the country he was in, and that's being paid. You know, he's building a school, he's building his grandmother a house and all these things. So you realise, you get the superstars, the Ronaldos, the Messis, forget them. 90% of footballers play, as a professional, play for the mortgage. 90% of pay for their mortgage, pay for their pension. You know, that's what the reality is. You know, as again, I've been lucky. I've been able to be comfortable because of football. I was far more comfortable than I would have been if I was just a teacher. You know, so but the reality is most footballers are there for the living, nothing else. So it's I don't have too much sympathy when I hear Messi moaning about 650,000 a week. You know, my heart bleeds for him. You know, give me a month. I can be injured for a month and do that, and then retire. You know, but that's why I think Asia. Yeah, and the passion. There is absolute mad passion for the game everywhere I went. India, cricket's still first, but like when I was in Tassie, AFL was first. Melbourne, I'm sure AFL is still first. I'm not sure because I haven't been there long.
Still the same. Still the same.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I enjoyed AFL. I got to know David Parkin, the coach, and what an intelligent man. And the game itself I enjoyed the game. I played in Tassie, and I realised there's tactics involved. I realised that I was hopeless at it. You know, I played in the forward pocket and never got the ball, and I got belted a few times. You know, and so I mean, the first time I came to Australia was, let's say, 1980. I was brought to Tasmania. I got off the plane in Launceston, and the journalist, singular, his journalist and a photographer, said to me, "Can you walk down the steps of the plane with a bag over your shoulder, sponsored bag, juggling a ball?" And I said, "Mate, if I could do that, it'd be Barcelona airport, you know." Launceston. So, and I got in the car with him. He took me back to Devonport, and I'm reading the paper. I always try and read the paper to get caught up on local news. And I saw football scores. Cooey 98, Penguin 76. I thought, what a goalkeeper I'll be here. You know, because I'd never heard of Australian football. Never heard of it because it just wasn't, because of the communications. It didn't exist in England, and I'd come from England and Bahrain. You know, no one played it, obviously, and you'd never heard of it. But I got taken to see Penguin against Cooey. Oh, it was an absolute culture shock. The shorts alone, the shorts on the side of the bellies, and the cars on a slope watching the game. You sat in your car watching it. You know, brilliant, loved it. You know.
Nice. Well, Steve, you hold a UEFA license. Do you keep educating yourself to improve your coaching?
Yeah, I think you have to. Anyone that says they know it all is daft. Where I've been lucky in as much that now there's more experts involved. When I first started coaching, I was the coach. I was the assistant coach. I was the goalkeeper coach. I was the physio in some cases, and the kit man. Now we've got as the longer I've gone on in the game, my staff have got bigger, and I've employed a fitness coach. Kit man, believe me, the kit men are very important to a club. Unsung hero, you know, but so important. But and suddenly sports science has come into it far more. My sports science background was basically psychology. I did my bachelor's in psychology, so that's where I've always been interested in that area. But in terms of the physiology is coming in now, the use of some of the GPS. I've got a foot in both camps in terms of analysis. One part of me believes in it because, like, back in the middle 90s when I was at Olympic, I was using match analysis, which was a VHS, which you mightn't remember because you're young, pencil and paper, which no one will probably remember anymore. And I was doing down match analysis off a VHS and working out where did shots come from? What percentage of shots came there? They came from inside the area. They came from one touch or two touch, the majority. So I was developing practices for my forwards, which also became good goalkeeping practices as well. So I was starting to do analysis in the middle 90s. It's now gone to another extreme where some of the analysis, you've got to have a PhD to understand it. and I can't understand some of the terms. I'm still looking for this half space. I don't know where it is, but someone's in it sometimes, and they're still vertically penetrating. Some of the phraseology they use, and some of it, again, you might have to beep this out. Some of it's a load of bollocks. They just aren't relating to the reality of football. When we were at Lao, I didn't have many staff at Lao because we didn't have much money, so I didn't have an analyst. But what happened was a company came in and offered match analysis for free, hoping that we'd buy it later. So of course we said, yeah, of course we'll buy it later. No way we were going to do that, but we said that. So we got analysis of our games. And after one game, I got a 32-page document. Now, I've not read 32 pages since I was at uni, never mind anything else. And I looked at it and I just couldn't understand it. And this bloke who'd done it off the TV and was telling me where my game plan went wrong. Now, our game plan was to hang on for as long as we could against Korea. That was the game plan, because we were never going to get the ball off them. We played South Korea in a World Cup qualifier. They had Son Heung-min, Spurs, what a player, by the way. They had Key, who was playing for Newcastle at the time. They had 3 more in the Bundesliga, and the rest were in the K-League. Our lads came from the Lao League, which meant we trained at 5:30 with the national team because they're coming from work. And in fact, my captain, on the return leg when we played South Korea, he had to work until 12 o'clock on match day. And I had to write to get him out of work at 12 o'clock. And that's what you're looking at. That's why I said we weren't going to win the World Cup. But physically, we just could not match Korea. Now, my aim was to keep the score as respectable as possible for 60 minutes. Because I thought if we hung on to then, we had a chance of respectable score. That doesn't mean winning, because we knew we weren't going to win. The first time we touched the goalkeeper touched the ball was 29 minutes, and that was a goal kick. And what I'd done was I planted one lad up front who happened to be the Lao 100 meters champion as well. He was my striker. I put him up front and we whacked the ball long. It wasn't any plan. It was a case of just whack it long so we could breathe for a while. Whacked it long, and I thought, we've got a chance now. Our lad can run. And the centre back gave him 2 yards, threw him a dummy, played the ball back. These lads in Koreans were not only super fit, they were good footballers. And no matter what tactics you use, if someone just gets the ball, kicks it past you, and then sprints, and you can't catch him because you're just not quick enough, there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. And Son Heung-min scored 3, made 2, and fortunately we ended up getting beat 8-0, but we had them down to 3-0 after an hour, which was, I thought, quite respectable. After an hour, our lads were just absolutely gone. I'd used me subs just to try and get the other lads to breathe. It wasn't tactical. The 3 most exhausted went off. End of the game, Son Heung-min, lovely lad, come over to me, shook my hand, said, "Thanks, coach. I could see what you were trying to do." And he laughed, because I told one of my lads to kick him on the halfway line. Because I was hoping if we kicked him near the halfway line, not near the goal, because he could take free kicks, but he mightn't fancy getting kicked because he had a Premier League game, next week, and he might be under threat from Spurs not to go and get kicked. But as the lad who said to me, who tried to kick him, I just couldn't get near him. I couldn't even try. He wouldn't let me near him. And Son Heung-min was great. Just took his shirt off. Said, "Please give that to the lad who was trying to mark me." So I forgot where I went. To go off a tangent sometime about football. Education. That was a football education. Believe me, that was a real football education. And we got some decent results. We got a narrow defeat by Kuwait, narrow defeat by Lebanon, and that was our aim. Our aim was to close the gap onto Thailand, onto Vietnam, close the gap onto the Asian. We played Kuwait. We'd come from Korea by normal flights, all in economy class. We all flew economy with the Lao because it's all we could afford. We got back, and when we arrived, Kuwait arrived at the same time for the game in their private jet. And that's the difference. I mean, you're looking at preparation of players, about wealth and things like this. When we went to tour Thailand for some pre-World Cup games, we toured by bus, and we were sleeping on the bus sometimes. because not because they were tight-fisted, because it wasn't there. The money just wasn't there, and that, like I said before, that's where you tend to get match fixing coming in. Sadly, after I left, 4 of my lads, first 11, were done for match fixing, banned for life. 2 I knew were fixing, but I couldn't do anything about it because they're the 2 best players I had in that position. I couldn't drop them because I couldn't prove they were fixing, but I knew. So I had to play them. And to be fair to them, they told me later, we only fixed in friendlies and we only fixed in away games. We didn't fix at home. So they were selective in their fixing. 2 had to put my house on, being honest. And I'd have been homeless now then, obviously, because they got done. But one of them, rang me later and said, "Coach, I didn't fix. It was set. I was stitched up, blah blah blah." But you understand why they get fixed. Son Heung-min's wages for 1 week was more than my whole team put together for a year. The lad who was marking Son Heung-min was on $200 a month.
That's ridiculous.
He used to get up at 4 in the morning, drive to the border of Thailand, pick up the vegetables, bring them back to the market, sell them, go back to sleep in the afternoon, wake up, come training with the national team, and got 200 a month from his club. And he was marking Son Heung-min. They never got paid, these teams, a lot of them, for the national team. What they get is bonuses. Now, in One Nation, we were on $1 million to win a game. It could have been $20 million because we weren't going to win. And what it means is that the bloke who offers the $1 million looks good in the paper. I'm the good bloke. I'm the star. The sponsor who gives him the $1 million to give to the players looks great. What a great sponsor I am. His $1 million's safe. He ain't going to get a win, Yeah. And the players are actually going to lose money playing for the national team. So that is what happens. And of course, fixing is grey. It's not black and white. It's grey. If you fix for money, I think that's black and white. You fix straight for money. But what do you do if they say to you, does your daughter still go to that school? Does your mum still shop at Tesco's at Sunday, 10 o'clock? You start thinking, like, you don't say I'll do something to them, but they say, what do you do if you've got a wife and 2 kids and you haven't been paid for 4 months and someone comes in and offers you 6 months' wages for 1 game just to lose it? Do you do it? The boys do it because they've got no choice, So there's elements of that. And not only that, you can win and fix matches because you're spot fixing in Asia. The handicap, the amount of goals you win by. I mean, I've won games through match fixing. You don't know when you're winning because you think you're a great coach and all the things you're doing are working. But in fact, their goalkeeper's letting goals in because it's planned, And 2 classic examples. One game I won, coming off at half time, a foreigner came to me and said, "Darby, you're going to win 2-0. It was 0-0 at the time. And I said, "How do you know?" He says, "I speak the language. They don't know that." So I know a lot more than me there. We scored in the 84th and the 89th. So we won and they had a 2-goal spread. They were never going to score. We didn't need to score a third, and we didn't have enough time anyway, but they let 2 in. And so everyone was happy. We were happy. They were happy. So, and then on the other side, where I do know I've lost one, definitely, we were losing 2-1 in a game with about 5 minutes to go. And to be fair, I'd have said that was a decent result. Fair result, no qualms. Last minute, corner comes over and the goalkeeper just palms it into his own net. I thought, okay, I've made mistakes like that. We all do that. Into extra time, 30-yard shot. Whoa, it must have been swerving and dipping. I got the video the next day. The ball went straight. My goalkeeper was swerving and dipping. I pulled my captain in and said, "What's going on?" He said, "Didn't you realise, coach? We played to win," which they did. He said, "but we decided with 5 minutes to go, if we're going to lose, we'd all had a bet beforehand. If we're going to lose, we're going to lose by 3 goals. So they had a spread bet. Losing, they lost 4-1, a spread bet. And that was fine because they'd lost anyway, but they still got their bonus, their winning bonus, by betting. So they didn't feel morally wrong. And you have to learn, and that is the best advice I was given in Asia, was you have to learn to be like bamboo. And I looked at the bloke who taught me that. He said, you have to learn to bend. and you have to learn not to snap. Snapping would have been taking the money yourself, which I've never done. But you have to be prepared to say, okay, he took the money. What can you do? You can't stop it. You know, you try and educate them, you try and help them. But if they haven't been paid for 4 months and your kids are hungry, or your kid needs an operation, what do you do? I mean, I don't know if you've got kids or not, but if your kid needs an operation and it costs 20 grand and you've got $15 in the bank, what would you do? You'd do something, wouldn't you? Because you're a good dad, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely, look, it's definitely hard. It's easier to you know, answer that question, but when you're in that situation, it's very difficult. And look, let's be honest, corruption it's all around the world. It doesn't matter if it's in football or if it's all over the world. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. We can minimize it, but being on top of things, but it's really hard. It's really hard. I think, I hope we don't have it in the future. But in saying that, realistically speaking, we probably are going to still have this corruption happening.
While there's gambling, there's going to be corruption.
Correct.
It happened in Victoria a few years ago. It would happen in the Premier League if the players weren't so well paid. You can't afford to pay a player. But I'm sure it's going to happen in the lower league, League Two, eventually, because there's less money. And if a lad's got a gambling problem or a cocaine problem, the bookies will know. They will know. You know, it's going to happen.
100%.
You're right. Education's the key. You know, I mean, and it's got to be proper education. The AFC sent over a man to Laos, who came over in his suit and his blazer. He looked great. He spoke to our lads who sat there after training one day, and through a translator. And of course, the first thing is, he's only subject to the translator. Our translator could have been saying anything, because no one knows. He doesn't know. I didn't know how to speak Lao. So he was translating. And at the end, he gave a beautiful little shiny brochure with a hotline on. And you can ring this number. And then you can do this in an email. At the end of the session, there's 22 aeroplanes flying around the room because the lads can't read English. So it was pointless. They're not going to use a hotline because, one, they can't speak English. And also, they don't trust anybody because the local police and the local politicians are corrupt. So why shouldn't the players be corrupt? So, you know, that's their logic. So it was a waste of paper. It was a nice gesture. And they said the right thing. But hey, welcome to the real world.
Well, that's it. That's it. What advice could you give to the up and coming young coaches, Steve?
Be realistic. I get inundated with calls from coaches from all over the world, obviously mainly English and Australian. And I get unrealistic people. I get people like, one guy said to me, I've been coaching Stoke under 13s at the academy. I'm ready for the J League now. And I'm looking, mate, the J League isn't ready for you, don't worry. Or I fancy coaching a national team in Asia. You know, I've been with the academy somewhere and I'm going, it ain't going to happen, mate. You know, so be realistic. That's the first thing. Next thing is, forget about being a youth coach. Unless you're lucky in Japan, but most nations will employ locals as youth coaches. One, because they're cheap, because a local is cheaper than a foreigner. Two, the language skills. The local speaks the local language. And also, they're educating their own people, which is, again, logical and the correct thing to do. So forget about being an assistant. You will either be a specialist, maybe if you're a good fitness coach, or maybe a goalkeeper coach. But not many, because there's usually local goalkeeper coaches. But if you're going to go across, you've got to be the head coach, because you're going to get paid more than anybody, and you've got to be the boss, and you're going to make decisions, and you're going to be the first sacked anyway. So accept that. So accept you're going to be sacked. Accept you're going to win something. You've got to win something, because if you don't win, you won't be kept. That's not, you know, forget this philosophy, forget the project. It's all about winning and winning again and winning bigger, you know. And if you're winning is political power. It's a political game, football. Then you have to get what you can. Why? If you win 4 in a row, try and get massages for the lads. Try and get a plane rather than a bus for the lads. And if you lose 3 in a row, shut your mouth, say nothing, just be quiet, and hopefully they might forget about you being there. And you keep getting paid. So that's the. And of course, like I said before, the best advice I got was be like bamboo.
Yeah.
Don't go in there with a colonial attitude and say, we do this in Australia, we do this in Germany, because you won't last. What you do in England, in Brazil, in Italy is irrelevant when you go down when you go to Thailand or wherever. I hear people say, oh, I'm going to introduce a pressing game in Malaysia. No, you're not, because the humidity and the temperature is so high. You will die after 30 minutes if you try pressing, doing your Liverpool Gegging pressing. The players will just drop dead. And then not only will they drop dead, they won't try for you anymore anyway. Yep. So you retreat and defend in your own half and things like this. So basically, be flexible, be like bamboo, accept the culture. You're a guest. Try and learn the language if you can. Be culturally okay. Do the right thing. If you're in Thailand, don't put your feet up and show your feet. Respect Buddha. In an Islamic country, don't look for a bacon butty. Let's be honest. And don't drink if you're in. Some countries don't care if you drink. Islamic countries, but some do. And if they do mind, don't do it. Because you're in that country. You play by their rules. So that was the most important thing I'd say. There's been some great Aussies: Darren Stewart, Blagojevich, Alistair Edwards, Abbas Saad, Scott Olrenshaw, some great lads who've gone over. The Aussies are usually good pros. They've come through a system, or they did, that was a good pro system, and they're good people, the Aussies. And I find there's not very few Aussies fail. They have talent, and they do the right thing with their clubs, the ones I've seen. So something's happening good in Australia. I just think the league needs more money, needs more marketing. I don't know many players now, I'll be honest. No players excite me anymore from the A-League. The lads who I knew, like Corica, Rudin, Muscat, are coaching now. So maybe that's a fault of mine. Maybe it's age. Maybe I don't know. But in terms of the media coming across to me as a punter on the outside, I don't know many A-League players anymore.
I guess finally, Steve, just on that topic as well, in terms of advice, if there are young up-and-coming players who, as many do, dream of having a career in football, what kind of advice would you have to those young players?
Well, you've got to be talented first, because without talent, it doesn't matter how good everything else is. You've got to be able to play. So I'm accepting that you can play. Because then, on top of that, you've got to have a good attitude. That means you've got to work hard. You've got to work harder than the next bloke, because it's a tough life. Being a pro is not easy. You've got to have a good lifestyle. And that means you don't need to smoke. You don't need to drink. Now, I'll be honest, when I was brought up playing, we all drank. Very few smoked, but we all drank. I realise now, maybe I'd have been a better player if I didn't drink. And I think now as well, the lads are also not drinking as much. I get the impression. So smoking, drinking, obviously drugs, that's a bigger issue in Australia, I think, than it was when I was there. You don't need them. If you want to make a mess of yourself, do it when you're 40. When you've made your fortune, don't destroy your life when you're 40. But if you want to be when you're in your 20s and your middle 30s, look after yourself. So look after yourself there. And it sounds almost naive and cliched. Be a good bloke, because the best players I've worked with have been good blokes. An example, Nicholas Anelka. I worked with him in India, and my immediate impression of Nick Anelka was, oh no, it's going to be a pain. He's going to be arrogant. He's going to be this, that. He was humble. He was polite, dedicated to the game, a good pro, smashing bloke. The two biggest stars in terms of what I've worked with were Brian Robson and Peter Reid. Again, good blokes, humble, honest, loved the game still. I worked with them in their 50s. They didn't care. They still loved football, and they're both millionaires. Both made their careers, massive careers, huge money in their careers, but didn't care. Still loved football. So, And that's the course. Like what I've just said then is, if you got to love football. You got to love it. If you don't love it, you won't make it. If it becomes a job too early, it might become a job when you're 33, 34, and you have to go through the motions to get the last couple of years' wages. But if you're a kid, you've got to love it.
Well, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time and for chatting with us on a whole range of different topics. And I think you've just shed the light on a lot of things that most listeners, and I mean, Omer and myself, I'm sure, would not have known what was going on in football. So we really do appreciate your time, and would love to have you back any other time.
Anytime. Good day.
Good day.
I can still speak Australian. Yeah.
Absolutely. Make sure you take care of yourself, and we'll chat again soon.
Cheers, mate. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Guys, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, this is Omer and Anel signing off. Thank you.